Yeah. So, good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome. I know that there are a lot of people who have been coming to our webinars every month. So, a very warm welcome to all of those who are coming regularly. And for those who are coming for the first time, this is Yogesh Agiwal from Crossroad Leadership Journeys. We are a leadership development organization in a little different format. So we essentially have a journey model, which means that we usually work with our clients on a more longer term basis to see the impact. In fact, starting from the logo, if you look at this, these are different people coming together, or these are different departments coming together. And this is a central purpose for which they come. So we essentially create the purpose for them. And this is a strategic leader on the top, and he can also become a servant leader on the bottom. That's the idea behind this. Yeah. So if you look at the slide, every organization, there are two axes, and there is a success level of an organization and there is a organization journey. So every organization hires people, from different parts of the country or world, and there are different mental models that come in, which means that people, so assuming Sakshi from Gorakhpur has a different mindset than Padma Kumar from, say, Kerala or maybe Hyderabad. So when they come together, there is surely going to be different of way of thinking. So there is a different hybrid culture, and then you get a certain result even with that. But when we do an intervention at crossover, we really work on the way people think their immunities to change and try to align the mental model. That creates an aligned culture, and that gives you a much more higher goal oriented result than if you were not to do that. And the way we do it is it's a very, very structured development framework. And those who have been coming to our webinar would have seen that we look at different levels of leadership. So in any organization, you can divide broadly them into four parts. So you've got senior leadership, mid-level, and associate and campus. And we look at four facets of leadership: self-leadership, team leadership, operational leadership, and organizational leadership. So essentially, when the leader comes out of the program, he's a very holistic leader at the end. And the way we do it is every month there is a workshop, either virtual or classroom. And then between the month, we engage them with a article, video, application of learning. Then they come for the next month. And this journey continues for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, depending on how deep the company wants to go in the competency. So that is a broad. And as you can see, we have been running this webinar. This is the 10th webinar in a row. And I think most of the time people start and then they stop. But we thought, or we rather got a good response every month. So we continued to, run this. So as you can see, the topics are quite interesting and very helpful. Like we did emotional agility during changing times was our first webinar, then strategy to results, conversation intelligence, becoming a talent magnet. The 10th hour, which is a very, very powerful webinar. I think all these webinars are there on the Crossover Leadership Journeys YouTube channel. So if you like to go and see any of the webinars, you can actually go and see them. I recommend all of you should surely look at the 10th hour, and it's a very beautiful webinar on how do you manage your time. How do you manage your routine? How do you manage your structure to achieve more? And it is based on some of the very powerful research by Rory Vader and Cal Newport. So you should look at Old Khan is a very interesting concept. It's a proverb in Gujarati, that Old Khan is like your Khan is your Old Khan. So Old Khan means treasure, and your net worth is your network. So it's a very beautiful module on networking. So do take a look at that also, and executive presence. And so you can subscribe to the channel. So in case, whenever we load new videos, you can take a look at it. Meaningful engagement is another very interesting, module that we ran in the last month. And then we had a module on sales engine also, like how do you fine tune your sales engine. This was run by Ramesh Dorairaj. And Ramesh Dorairaj is a very, very successful sales coach. He was heading the outsourcing practice at Mindtree, and since a couple of years he's been an independent consultant. And there is also a WhatsApp group called Leadership CHASKA, And if you can, so I think Pooja has already sent in the chat box the YouTube channel, so you can subscribe to the channel. And there is a Leadership CHASKA WhatsApp group, and I know some of you are already there. So I'll request Pooja to also share the WhatsApp joining link. So what will happen is that for the rest of the month, you will keep getting some post from Pooja, about the topic, so that you are aware of that, and you can also get all updates on the next webinar in the same WhatsApp group. Yeah. So let's begin with today's I think session called ever changing change, and this is a topic. And in webinar, usually I know it's a very small time, like 90 minutes, and there is quite a bit to cover. So while I will have some pauses in between to ask you question, but you feel free to ask me any question anytime that you have a doubt about or you want to clarify. Yeah. So if I were to say, most people hate two things. One is if there is too much of change, people hate that, and then there is other thing that they hate if there is no change in the system. There is status quo. So my question to all of you is that which one do you hate and why? So do you hate change or do you hate status quo? So on your chat window, you can write which one do you hate, which is, do you hate change or do you hate status quo, meaning there is no change. So you can, okay, so Satish says status quo, okay. No change, Deepak Sharma, okay. Dislike, no change, okay. Mindless change, okay. Padma, mindless change, okay. Status quo. I can see a lot of people saying status quo, yeah. So, so I think Nagarjuna, I think Madhvi, I think all of this, yeah. No change, yes, yes. Chaturvedi sir, welcome, yeah, okay. Priya, status quo, yeah. So I think majority, do that. But if you go and, yeah, okay, I can see. Okay, varies. Okay, depends on the time, but largely no change. Okay, Nikhil, very good. That's how Jombe is so successful, that you guys never let status quo continue. Okay, Pooja Jain, no change. I think the majority people, I think nobody really said a change other than, I think, mindless change, Padma, that you said. But if you look at the statistics, although most of you want to make a change, but if you look at 64% of the change in the world, you look at any successful organization, you will find that change is unsuccessful. And what we are going to deal with today is a very systematic way of how can you manage change. And as always, I'm going to recommend some books for you all to read. So I am sure you should actually go and take a look at those also. So I think when we look at change, we want to first understand this very important concept. And this is by a physicist called Brian Cox, and he says that I think, there is an illusion that there is some eternal place where, everything will be peaceful and there will never be a change and you will be in heaven and all that. This is just a myth. In reality, the universe is like constantly going to change, and many of these things are going to be irreversible, which means that we have to accept, like the way we have accepted gravity. So if you look at gravity, even if the chief minister of Telangana was to climb from a 10th floor, no matter how much of security guards are standing, if he falls down, I think it is going to show the law that he's going to fall down, and it will come down straight on the earth. Yeah, that is the law. Now, similar to law of gravity, I don't know if we have really accepted change as a law. And when we say that change is all about disorder, so disorder is a law of universe, which means, and entropy is a concept. So I just want to take a pause and ask people that, have you heard of this term called entropy anytime before?
I have heard it in the thermodynamics.
Yes. Absolutely.
Long back.
Long back, yeah. So that is one, definitely a true that it is a law of thermodynamics, but it is also a measure of disorder, measure of randomness, measure of chaos. Yeah. So if you look at entropy, and when we look at the universe, if it is not going to stop, for example, we are saying that, although the disorder will continue to be there, so entropy is a measure of that disorder. Yeah, which means that if you look at some of the manifestations of entropy. So why do things break down? That's entropy. Why is Murphy's law so prevalent? That's entropy. Why do things malfunction? That's entropy. Why are we obstructed in many things in when we try to do? That's entropy. Where there are 100 more mistakes than accomplishment? That's entropy. Yeah, so entropy is going to be there forever. So it is like the rule in the universe. So for example, even if I don't do anything, yeah, today morning I say brushed my teeth and said that the teeth is absolutely clean. And from today I'm sit down and I'm not brush the teeth, for example. Still my teeth will start deteriorating without doing anything, which means the universe is continuously going to change. So the organizations that today are not there did not accept change as a law of universe. I mean, I'm going that deep about this topic, saying that if I were to accept change as a law like gravity, then I will become very comfortable with that because ये तो होने वाला ही है. Now the question is, are you driving that entropy in your organization, or are you letting the competition or somebody else do that? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Because if you think that I am good with my business and nothing will happen, no. I mean, COVID is a classic example. Nobody could think about it. It taught us so many new things. Yeah. So there are companies who just got afraid and accepted that and did not close down. But there are companies who accepted that change and made changes for that part. Yeah. So if you look at, like when you look at this right hand side, when you look at these cars going smoothly in the lane, sometimes we feel that this will continue, matlab smoothly chalega, but then suddenly I think there is disruption comes. And I always give this example of, when I was in Wipro, I used to travel, quite a bit, and my wife used to help me, keep my cupboards, very nice. So the times when I was in Hyderabad and not traveling, I used to always think that this cupboard is so nicely put, like the jeans on the left hand side, the t-shirts on the right, the formal on the middle, and the suit on the right. And I used to always think that this will always be like this, and why does she need to again, put the cupboard right every few weeks? And I would then understand that because change is going to happen, in the sense you will be in a rush, you will essentially get the iron guy coming at a time when you want to rush for a meeting, and you are like dumping the cloth, and then suddenly you are picking something and you're destroyed some other place. So the over a period this will happen. So we don't have to then get upset with the change, but we have to start looking at that, how do I manage that change that is coming to me? So this will continue to happen. So entropy is the rule in an organization as it is in the physical universe. So now we are bringing the universal thing into the organization, meaning over a period of time, all the organized systems that evolve towards chaos, unless you pursue change relentlessly, your efforts will eventually wither away. Which means that, say today, Deepak is starting a new organization and is setting a beautiful process in his system with his experience. Now, if Deepak sits down and gets upset with the changes that are coming as they are growing, then he get very upset. But if he accepts that it's a rule in the organization like the physical universe, then he will never get upset. Because, and in any organization, only three. So if you look at this business, the business is settled into a rhythm to do things in a certain way. A method started by someone who took initiative and became the force. But over time, the same ways, that was there will not work. But what happens is you get so used to that particular way of working that it becomes very impossible for you to change. And then a competition comes in and then takes away the entire organization. So imagine if we all were to start not getting comfortable at all. Yeah, not comfortable at all with any of these things that people have. So many of you should appreciate somebody has started a system, no doubt about it. But don't think that that system will be there forever. You have to constantly keep looking for when the change will happen and not get into entrenching over time, because you get so comfortable with the system that you start saying, boss, I don't think we should change at all in the organization. So here is a very beautiful thing by Peter Drucker. And Peter Drucker, as most of you know, that has been the biggest thinker of the century. He said, only three things will happen naturally in an organization: friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything would need change, leadership. Yeah? And change leadership is the key for that. And if you look at this slide, and a very important slide for you to think, that everything is in order at some point of time, then the growth kicks in. And when growth comes in, complexity comes. And when complexity comes, entropy comes. Now, again, are you going back to the order? So, if you get upset with entropy and you get upset with the change, then you're not really doing anything in order. So, the same entropy, bring it back to order. Again, growth, again, complexity, again, entropy. So, I'll take a pause here and just want your reflection, thoughts. What do you guys think? So far, whatever I've shared with all of you. Sure.
I have something to say.
Yes, yes.
Somewhere I heard in some talk, I don't remember where, you don't need an effort to grow weeds. It will grow by itself.
Yes, yes.
Now, if you want to plant tree, efforts are required.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So like that, if you don't do anything, like entropy, disorder is like weeds.
Yes, yes.
So it will grow by itself.
It will grow by itself. Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. So now we have to put a plant there. Then things are required.
Completely.
And this is also my experience, because I tell you one more I want to add.
Thing which will need a lot of effort.
Yes, Madhavi.
Hello.
Sorry, I think did I cut somebody?
No.
Sorry for that.
I just wanted to add one, Madhavi. Then
yeah, go on, sir, go on. Sir. I'll come later.
What happens, Yogesh, is many companies, when they make an initiative to change because they are forced by somebody or internally.
Yes.
But they make a change, but they don't give enough, efforts to sustain that change.
Yes.
So what happens, everything like, your quality system or whatever it is, it is achieved. They are at the peak.
Yes.
And if you go and see after 6 months, that sustaining or the efforts to maintain, that is missing. So then it will deteriorate.
Yes.
This I have seen in my experience. Thank you.
Yes. So, Sadi, in fact, from this session, what I want to also say is that, like too much of sustenance also is like, today's time has to be relooked at, in the sense.
No, because what I'm telling, improvement has to be maintained at some level. Again, improve further. Don't stay there.
Yes. Absolutely. Hi, Satya. Madhvi, you wanted to share something, then I'll let Satya speak after that.
Yeah. What I was trying to tell is that randomness, which entropy, when it is high, that is what happens. Randomness happens.
Yes.
Anything, everything kind of, like he exactly gave an example of weed. But for a structured thing to be implemented and effectively implemented and sustained till a point where it keeps a relevance, because relevance is the key word. As long as you are relevant, then there is growth happening. The minute you are irrelevant, you quickly have to very dynamically change. So at the end of the day, it's very volatile, especially some business structures are such that they need to change. For example, if you take the Apple products that come up or Samsung products, they're very dynamic by nature. 6 months हुआ नहीं कि आपका खुद का phone ही old model लगेगा. So some industries are like that, while maybe there are some industries which can sustain for a longer time.
Yes. Makes sense. Very nice. Perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Satish. Thanks, Madhvi. Satya, please.
I just want to add what Madhvi was just speaking, but I think in any organization, any growing organizations, we can take example of our organization also. I think the things generally picks up at a certain pace, and then you add on some systems and processes for a short-term gain, and then look for a longer-term version of the same thing again, that how it can be continued on a long-term basis. But one day again you will find that the competition is catching up, or somebody else is in the same path again. Then again you have to reorganize yourself, think something differently again, and try to change it. I know the changes it cannot happen so frequently, but yes, changes is a must to keep yourself ahead of the competition and keep yourself always on the forward looking path. It is and entropy will be always there, whether you are in level 1 or level 3 or level 5. The entropy will always be there, and you keep reinventing your things or reinventing the wheels as you progress, and the continuation of growth or the continuum theory will continue on that. Right. That's my understanding.
No, but absolutely, Satya. So I think what we want to drive from this session is that once you accept this as a law, then you are actually never upset with any change. You are actually, and as I said in the beginning, that most of you did say. Now, if you were to look at, if you are in a business of manufacturing some products and everything is going so smooth, and as we have been always, we discussed, but this question I had put that, do you think that it will continue go well forever from what we have learned about entropy so far? And we really, from the responses that I've got from Satish, Satya and Madhvi, it will not continue. So our idea is that, can I constantly keep looking for that? Because if I don't do that change in my organization, then I think somebody else will do. Yeah, that's the thing. And if you look at this statistic, which is so startling, that you see the impact of entropy. Like Peter Drucker in 1980 had looked at 40, company, more than 40 companies that he said are excellent companies. Less than, not even half a century, in less than about 20-21 years, when Jim Collins did the research, he only found 11 companies out of the 40. Can you imagine? 29 companies had actually vanished in that period of time because they did not really look at the importance of change. Yeah, and there are some very, very startling statistics also. If you see, 5 on an average, organizations have gone through so many change. Only 34% report clear success and 16% mixed result. There is a cultural inertia. 46% of CIOs, say that, culture as the biggest barrier to success. So these are all very powerful statistics on change. So when you look at winning organizations, what they do, so they actually accept that as a law. They discard legacy mindset. They ask some very powerful questions, and take risk. They are champion to bring in innovation. They listen and learn from customers and the environment. Yeah. So at Crossover also, I think we've been fairly successful in COVID. In fact, more successful than before, because we heard the customer. We made lots of changes in the way our content get delivered, to who we get delivered. They also said agility, flexibility, and they accept change. Yeah, Madhvi, please.
Yeah, one small point I wanted to add here to what you're saying.
Yes.
This has been a part of my survey, which I did long time back, that there were some policies or there were some rules to be put into place in an academic institution.
Yes.
Schooling, middle school and high school kind of a school.
Yes.
So we observed that a rule which was being implemented was very well taken and very quickly and effectively implemented in the students level. Yes. Whereas it took a lot of time in the staff level. Yes. So my opinion is, my view is that the more rigid people are, the more their egos come in, the more they become fixed about some notions or preconceived ideas, then they cannot invite change very easily. Where against the younger generation, maybe this can be taken even in comparison with organizations, maybe the freshers or the lower management people, when they know the efficacy of a policy, they kind of cooperate more effectively than yes. some of the middle management or top management.
So, Madhvi, as we go along in the webinar, what you will see is that, there is a very beautiful book by William Bridges called Managing Transitions. And I'm going to talk about that book. And I'm also going to talk about, how, each level in the organization can be very beautifully, handled to handle the change. So far, what I wanted to cover for all of you is the, setting the stage for change. So we know now that, it's a law. The universe is not going to stop. It's going to continue to actually, change. So that is one thing I want to set up in the first 15-20 minutes. And now I want to get into not assuming. Now we have got this, understanding that there is no choice. change to karna hi padega. The universe is going to change. So then how do we handle that? And where do we actually start dealing with change? Where does it begin? Yeah. So first thing it begins is with the mindset. Yeah. And those who have attended any of our emotional intelligence program, you should be able to recollect, how we work on the mindset. How do you work in the way our mind works? So the reality is created by the mind, and we can change our reality only by changing our mind. This is a very, very old phrase by Plato. So you can imagine how for how many centuries this continues to be a very powerful phrase. And if you look at this slide, and I'm just giving you a brief of that. So there are two parts in our brain. One is the limbic system, and second is the rational brain. Yeah. So what happens is that limbic system is where essentially all our experiences get stored, all our past gets stored, and the rational brain or the prefrontal cortex is where we start making the decision about whatever we see. Now, this screen, I have kept it here because as you start processing change, the mind generally wants to resist change, because change is like a threat to the mind. Okay, so like the way we have physical threat, even any change is a threat to the mind. So it operates at the limbic system level. But if we start looking at the prefrontal, which means we connect the limbic system with the prefrontal cortex, which is the rational brain, you will start then seeing that I think change is good for me. I think when I look at the history, when I look at the statistics, it's not as bad as I thought. Now the question is, as leaders, are we connecting the limbic system with the rational brain? And if we don't, then the mind's natural response to change is a threat response. So it will say, no, we don't want to make a change. And the remaining part of the webinar, I'm going to talk about how you can start slowly as an agile leader, build that change. So there is an element of feeling and emotion that we want to also talk about. And here we say that every person has a different response. So if you look at, and there are many theories to understand feeling and emotion, but if you look at this theory by William Marston, and I'll talk about that. So when change happens, one of the things that we want to also start looking at is that many times when we look at change, we look at the process side of change more, which means that we quickly start getting into creating dashboard, project plan, Excel sheet, Google sheet, and kaun kya karne wale. But we don't look at the people side of change. So for example, if Ankita, who is part of Crossover, and if I want to move her from Gorakhpur to Hyderabad, because Hyderabad is really growing and we have got a lot of business here. Now, Ankita understands that, there is a need to come to Hyderabad. And I start putting the plan for her on the left-hand side, which is the processor, how will she come here, which role she will take up and all that. But I have missed out on the people side of it, in the sense the emotional side of it, which means that I need to understand what is the state she is going through. Is she ready for that change? What is the timeline she would know? So many times the balance between the two is the key in making any change. What we have seen in our experience is that a lot of emphasis is on the process side of change, which is the technical side of change. But the people side of change does not get the due importance. So the leader who is very excited about the change, they start pushing the change very hard, but they will not get the result unless you balance with the people side. So if you balance, then you get sustainable result. And if you do that, then the benefits are enough. You will have 5.5 times more likely to get the individuals to be successful. So you can see all these benefits that you will get here. It's like 7.5 times more likely that people will avoid reverting to the status quo as we started, because you have balanced the two. And many times when we make change, leaders are very excited when they are dealing with change. So they basically start pushing the change very heavily. But every person feels it differently. So I want to leave you with this, thing that when you are driving the change, you are very happy because you have seen the other side of change. But the driver is, if you look at this picture, you can see how the driver is driving so rashly, but the mother is in so much of trouble. So these are people who are in your team who are not really as excited about the change, because for them, they are still the passenger, and your passengers are very, very scary about the change. And you are very happy because you have heard about the other side of the change. You've heard about what the benefits of change are, but not the passengers. Now, the passengers can be of different types. So this is another book that I would like you all to take a look at it, called The Emotions of Normal People. And if you look at this work of William Moulton or William Marston, he has like beautifully described 4 types of people. Yeah, there are some people who are very okay with immediate change, meaning they are, we call it dominance type. There are some people who are people who love to essentially have conversation. They want to go to a restaurant. They want all details of what the change is all about. Then there are people who are very slow. They are very submissive. They won't move so fast. And then there are people who are compliant, which means that there are people who, unless you give them the statistics. So, for example, Gautam Gupta, who's worked with me in Wipro for so many years, if he is somebody who is a compliant type, meaning he will not move until you give him all the statistics. But imagine if you don't get the statistics in place, the person will not shift. And you might think that he is a person who is resisting the change, but he's not resisting change first. He's actually wanting the data. Similarly, there is people who are submissive. They need lots of time to make a change, which means that you need to give them heads up ahead of time. Then there are people with high I. These are people who need to be taken out, who need to be described. So the point I want to just highlight here, and in the webinar, typically every month, what I do is that I give enough and more pointers to all of you so that you can go back and start reflecting upon this interesting concepts. You go to your own organization, look at last few changes that you have done. If they were not successful, what could be the reason? Did we not handle the 4 types of people differently? So if you look at this, slide, you can see DISC is a acronym which talks about dominance, influence, consciousness, and steadiness. Yeah, Gautam, please.
Yeah. So while you spoke about the people side of change, Yogesh,
yes,
so I think there is a beautiful model that drives the people orientation towards change.
Yes.
So it is called as the 4 windows of change model.
Okay.
And it talks about steps like denial, resistance, exploration, and commitment.
Very nice.
And invariably, every individual, when subject to a situation of change,
Yes.
goes through these 4 windows.
Yes.
Unfortunately, for all of us, the window starts from denial, actually. The moment a change hits you, you start denying the change.
Yes.
How come this has happened with me? I don't think I'm going to face the change.
Yes.
I'm not a part of this.
Very nice.
Has it ever happened with anyone before? So on and so forth.
Very nice.
So if you don't manage the people side of change very well, then the process side will ultimately face a lot of resistance because you're trying to drive too many things at a very short notice.
Yes.
Change becomes, a big challenge at that point in time.
Very nice. Very
so
nice.
I completely subscribe to, what you said.
No, very nice. And Gautam, what you shared, if you connect with the limbic system,
correct.
The denial comes from there. The mind is actually wired to look at any change as a threat.
Correct.
So as leaders, and I was seeing Nagarjuna's comment that the bottleneck starts at the top. And what I feel, Nagarjuna, is that if you look at the leaders, they have got so much of thing on their prefrontal cortex that many times, they are just not able to move forward, and they looks like to be the bottleneck. But if you were to start looking at the psychology side of the whole thing, the behavior side of the whole thing, and hence, I come from a delivery, sales, operations background, and I always feel that some of these things are still not, given to leaders in a format that they can understand. Imagine if every leader on the top were to understand entropy and DISC, possibly they will have a very different approach to managing change. If they look at the pyramid that I showed about process and people, it can become so powerful for them. Yeah. So I agree with you, Nagarjuna, but I always empathize with the top leadership because I feel there is too much on their head and the prefrontal cortex is like really jammed for making right decision. Yeah. So we'll move to the last part of this structure that I had created. First was the entropy part, where we looked at it's a law of universe. Then we looked at the way we want to move towards change. So it's very important to look at people, process. And then we look at the DISC part of how people respond to change. So each individual, and here is where I think you will have to start now superimposing what you learned earlier into this model. Meaning that if you look at this model, it's like a river. Okay, so you're on this side of the river, which is there is something that is going to end for people when they make a change. And then you're moving to the other side of the river. Yeah. Now, when you're moving to the other side of the river, you are very excited about the other side of the river because you are now really knowing what the change will look like. But not everybody is seeing that other side of the river. So the challenge comes that you are at the new beginning, but a lot of people are still at the ending. And I always give this example of like when our children get married and the bride comes to our home, and there is an ending for the bride with the earlier family. The maternal side, there is an ending. Now, those bride who essentially are very nicely taken care in the beginning time, when they are come to the new home, they are still, having a lot of attachment with the earlier home. And that is the reason why we have so many rituals. So if you look at in most weddings, there is this Bidaika program and there is welcome to the new bride. Why do we do all that? We do it all that because we want to tell the bride that there is an ending that is happening with your earlier family. Yeah, there is a lot of this crying in the night, and all this. All this happens with the family members. All that is good. It should happen because it's a formal ending to that family. And when she's in the new home, she's still like in the neutral zone, which means that she's in between stage. She's not very clear about how the new family works. There is a lot of confusion in her mind. And then there is a time when there is a new beginning, which means she even forgets the maternal last name that she had earlier. She almost thinks that she was born in this family. She's always from this family. Now, if you were to bring this bride analogy to corporate life or to our work that we do, you will start seeing that whenever we do this change, and if we don't do proper ending, and that's the reason why do we have this send-off party, and if you are moving from one city to another, is because you're telling these people that, yeah, or if somebody is moving, like when Nagarjuna moved out of Wipro, he would have had a big party. So because there is an ending with Wipro that is happening, for example. Yeah. And then there's a neutral zone and there's a new beginning. So if you were to look at the earlier thing that we spoke about, the people side of work, the process side of work, and then these three phases. So when you're putting together the change plan, itself you are keeping this in your background. You're saying that there will be, and then you're going a little granular, that if I've got 20 people under my team, who are the type D, who are type I, who are type S, who are type C. C might take certain different ways to get convinced about change. S might take even longer. So in the project plan, if I were to look at S and give them more time for ending, because they are losing something, it is hard for people to letting go. So if I've invested 5 years in a product which I was so passionate about, and the organization decides to discontinue that product, it's not easy for me to let that go. But I know, since I have now understood entropy, I've understood that this is a change in the world, it's a law of universe. I know that, but I still will need time. You cannot push that to me because everybody takes time to mourn the losses. So there are people who take 6 months, who take 3 months. I know in a corporate setup, you do have a pressure to make the change. But this model will help you to not become so ruthless. You will have certain ways and means to handle those people in the change. And then the neutral zone and the new beginning. So when you're in the new beginning, again, remember entropy, that you will not stay in the new beginning for too long. We'll again go back to the ending, which means the new beginning that we did for some time, again they'll go back to the other side of the river and then go to the new river. So I'll take a pause here again, just to have your reflections, your thoughts on this very beautiful framework of William Bridges. Anybody, any thoughts, reflections?
Yogesh, that analogy you gave, the bride coming to the new house is apt for the industry.
Satish, I tell you, I mean, I have had...
this happens, like, for example, when somebody joins the company, people expect him to perform immediately.
Yes.
Next day. But there will be a lot of confusion in his mind.
Yes.
Right.
Completely. I mean, imagine, and if you were to, so, I mean, one of our clients where we are doing a 1-year sales program for them, and I really have a tough time with the management because, in the 4th month, they are putting people in the PIP and they're, getting people rid of. And I said, oh, sales is like, it's like bride coming to your home. Like, it will take some time for them to adjust to the new environment, to the product, to the processes, to the customers. Yeah. So this, what you said, is very, very powerful. I mean, you can apply it in every parts of our lives.
Correct.
Yeah. And this bride example I give you because when I look at in the society, there is so many divorces that are happening, so many separations. It's because some of the rituals that were required are getting skipped nowadays.
Or taken for granted that she, when she shifted, she has to naturally adapt, just giving some facilities, comforts and other things,
Yes, absolutely. So physical comfort and mental comfort are two different
things. Yes.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nicely. Thanks, Satish. I am glad you liked the example of this bride actually.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think Nikhil has a very nice comment he has put that can totally relate to it. This happens even when someone is promoted. You're right. You have to let go the past beliefs, ways of working, certain values and time. Very nice. Nikhil, completely. And Nikhil, what happens is that the reason I like many times we know a lot of these things, but if you put that in a framework, then it becomes very easy for anybody to really understand and follow. And this is not a very complex framework. So whatever I have spoken is like you start with entropy, you look at this, then you look at this. So you are now very calm about the change. Like कि यार होने वाला है कुछ कर नहीं सकते.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
what? No, Yogesh, one question. You said that 4 stages. So entropy means again you make an effort to bring back the orderliness.
So
leave with that.
Huh?
No. You said there are 4 stages. When you reach the entropy stage.
Yes.
So again you make an effort to come back to the stage 1.
Yes.
The orderliness.
Yes.
So it's like a cycle. Okay.
Cycle. So when there is chaos, you are not worried about the chaos. You're there, maza aa raha hai. Yeah, like you are enjoying bring it back to the orderliness.
No. But see, if moment you find comfort in chaos, you may not make an effort to bring orderliness.
So there are two, maybe I'll respond, but anybody else would like to respond what Satish is asking. Yeah. Nikhil, आप ही respond कर लो.
नहीं, I will try. So I personally believe like we cannot remain in disorder for a long time because that creates a certain amount of discomfort with us, and that is our natural response to bring back some sort of order. Again, that is going to get changed because it is constant. So you are always in that cyclical mode. That's what my understanding is.
Very nice. So Nikhil, perfect. I think that's also a very nice response. So Satish, what we are saying is a lot of companies, when there is chaos, they start making judgment about the company, saying, "अरे यार इधर तो कुछ चलने वाला नहीं है, पूरा गड़बड़."
That's the negative statement, or
So what we want to communicate to our team is great. Chaos से तो मजा आएगा. चलो इसको ठीक करो.
Correct.
That's how we want to. If there is no chaos, then I am very worried.
Correct.
Yeah. So the chaos should be for growth. Saying that, oh, acha, I think, so when the growth happens, chaos should happen. But then there's growth not happening, the growth actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the whole idea. And then again, when you are in order, again, you are looking for a growth. Again, there is entropy.
Exactly. Correct. You have to go through that process to grow.
Yes. And then you're not stopping there. You're constantly looking for, if there is no chaos, you're creating chaos in the organization. So you're starting a new product, you're starting a new division, you're making changes to the features of the product.
Correct.
You are bringing in less. So that you're not like relaxing anytime. You're like constantly creating that. Yeah.
And Yogesh, how do you suggest that how we can manage this chaos? Because how we can enjoy in this chaos? Because at least I am seeing that from last 2 months, every day we are seeing some change. Whatever we planned, that rarely works.
Yes.
So yes, then we want to bring everything in order.
Yes.
Something new thing happens, and that put us in some kind of a stress. So
yes.
Suggest that how to manage that kind of a chaos and how to enjoy the way you are saying.
Yes. So I think I can see Padma's hand also getting raised. So Padma, you want to respond to Deepak, or you have something else to add?
Yes. I just wanted to share some thoughts triggered by what Deepak was saying.
Yes.
So one is in terms of as you rightly said, cosmos itself is undergoing so much of seemingly chaotic kind of movement, but there is order in the chaos as well, and it quickly kind of readjusts itself. And this is something which we can take as inspiration. So second aspect is the chaos outside. We don't necessarily fix the chaos outside. We fix our ability to deal with the chaos inside. As in, we become better change managers, we become better change agents, we become more comfortable with the changing situation rather than trying to bring the entropy back to a stability from the external perspective. So most leadership, change management is working within as to what are we going through when we see change, and how can we become more comfortable with the change. Because when we say change is inevitable, change is the only constant, we acknowledge that change will happen. And even when change is not happening, we initiate that change. But how comfortable do we feel as people to handle the change on an ongoing basis? And is our ability to handle the change improving as we go along? That is my perspective.
Yeah. So very nice. Thank you so much. So Deepak, and I'm not like specifically saying what is happening in your current organization, but what I want to share, Deepak, is that see, if the chaos is because people are like really not aligned to what they are actually there for in the organization, that is not we want to happen in the organization. Then it is very difficult to even go back to the orderliness. The chaos is about, whatever people are there who are contributing to the chaos from a view that they will say, yeah, chaos is good because we are basically struggling to get to where we want, but not that people don't have a clarity of why are we in this organization or what am I supposed to do in the organization. That chaos is very dangerous chaos. Then the organization will not, then they have not understood the change at all. So I don't know, Deepak, if I was able to, get this point across that, each one of should be in the mindset where, they are dealing with the chaos with a purpose, and not that they are lost that abhi kya karna hai, ya hum log kar kyun rahe, whatever. So is the alignment all right? Is the vision all right? Is everybody clear about what they want to do?
Yeah, Yogesh, I think. My question was, I agree with this thing. When there is a change and it has to be communicated, and there are different ways. But what Padma has said, I am just adding into that we have to manage ourselves. I think change is required. I mean, if we have to grow, the change is required. But how we manage ourselves, that is most important thing.
Yes.
And to manage ourselves, I think there are few things like one thing you have very rightly said, that if we accept that there would be chaos, and there would be a change. If one thing is accepted, I think there are half of the things are managed. When
absolutely,
it will anyway, it will happen.
Yes.
So I was just talking about the second part of that, how to manage ourselves while this change occurs.
Yes.
You manage the team. Like if team is there, I know the change is there, I manage the team. But how to manage ourselves, that is something is very important.
Yes. So Deepak, one of the things that I recommend, to all my participants is there is this very interesting, framework that we teach in crossover called the multiplier mindset. Yeah. So what happens in that is that, see, when there is too much of change, or from a leadership perspective, how are you even organizing your day is very important. Meaning, although there is so much of like, you should be like that fan, जो पानी के नीचे तो बहुत फड़फड़ करता है, but ऊपर से बहुत काम लगता है. ठीक है, तो वो कैसे होगा? When you are able to organize your day so well. Okay, which means that you know that there is a set of things you have to do, which is, we call it as categorization. And then there is something called plotting. When I say plotting, is basically ahead of time, blocking certain blocks of time for certain thing that you want to do. Okay, now when you start doing these two things, what starts happening, Deepak, is that you start addressing the chaos in a very systematic manner, which means that you have certain plots of time that you will address this issue with this team, then you'll go to other group, then you will devote time. Because then what happens is people start looking at, अच्छा दीपक सर से बात कर लेंगे, दोपहर को 12 बजे मिलेंगे तब, ठीक है, चलो ये टीम का 12 बजे दीपक का मीटिंग है, 4 बजे हम लोग बात कर लेंगे. If you are not able to structure your time in a very proactive manner, then the chaos in the entire organization is that they're constantly looking for Deepak's time, but they're not able to get that time. And then they make certain assumptions, certain decision, which is not what Deepak wanted. And when Deepak comes back to them and say, "Yeah, तुमने क्या किया?" बोलते सर हमको पता ही नहीं था. And then you get upset, तेरे पता नहीं तो पूछना था. But Deepak is not available. किसको पूछे? Yeah. So if you were to start looking at this categorization and plotting, then you still have certain blocks that are there for even dealing with chaos after chaos. मतलब कुछ टाइम आपने उस समय बिता दिया, कुछ टाइम फिर भी रखा अपने chaos के लिए. But then the team knows, ठीक है यार, ये वीक में हम लोग ये 4 issues है, इसको हम लोग ऐसे resolve करेंगे. And then when you enter the office, you pretty much know how the day looks like. I have seen a lot of very senior leaders, they just walk into the office and then start dealing with whatever they are seeing on the ground, and they feel very pride about that. But that is not the way to manage, because then what you're doing, you're constantly only managing escalations. You're not managing the real changes that the organization would be required. So Deepak, since I am in this field always, I would love to maybe spend some time and maybe take you through that and show you how plotting and how categorization can help in putting the structure around it. Yeah. So बात करते हैं उसके बारे में.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Sure. So good. So this is how the whole William Bridges framework will look like. And then I think if you look at, there are some very interesting actions that I would like you all to take a look at. So what should a leader do in the ending phase? So as you saw, there was ending, there was neutral phase, and then there was new beginning. Yeah. So in ending, what you should be in, if you look at the first blue color thing, be available, which means that many times I tell my clients that if you are implementing a change on a Monday, that week don't travel. One of the clients, I told him that, hope you're not traveling that week. And he said, what does the travel to do with change? I said that if you're not available and this is pre-COVID time, if you're not available in office, people will make their own assumptions about the change. But if you're available, they'll feel कि यार चलो कुछ दीपक से बात कर लेते हैं. So be available. So means as simple as planning your schedule, that the week you're announcing the change, you are there. Yeah. So when you're planning for this, steps that I have shared with you, in the neutral zone, you will start, seeing that there are still people who are like not comfortable with change, where they're in a confused zone. So if you can recognize some of the success that you have got, yeah, you will start seeing the people who are still not very bought in will say, यार अगर ये 4 लोग को ठीक लग रहा है तो I think होना ही चाहिए ठीक. I think we should possibly look at this, and these are some of the suggestions that you can use in the neutral zone. Yeah, and in that time, while you are celebrating the success, it is also very important that you don't shut down anybody who is still creating some questions to you or who is not still supportive. तो उसको ये मत समझो कि this guy is really trying to destroy my change. No, there are people who genuinely have some concerns from their heart. So even if they don't, as a leader, you have to consider everybody's, and you saw DISC earlier, you saw how people have different capacities to manage. Maybe there are people who are still taking some time, no problem. Neutral phase is your important phase for the next phase, because अगर ये ठीक से handle नहीं किया, तो चक्कर है कि people will go back to the previous phase which is ending and then go back to where they were earlier in the river. If you want to move them to the river on the other side, you have to manage the neutral phase very nicely. And then the last part, which is new beginning. Yeah. So you are constantly, so it's not that new beginning where people can't go back to the earlier phases, but then you are seeing, signs of positivity or signs of people coming adjusted to the new change. They're not recalling some of the earlier things that they had earlier. And that is the time you start really recognizing the complete milestone, because you have done quite a big of achievement, and start recognizing them on different forums, different do that. So these are the actions that are there. And if you read the book called Managing Transitions, which is a very powerful book, you should read the book of Emotions of People that I spoke about earlier. These two books can be a great addition to the way you are managing change. Yeah. And these are some very interesting vectors of communicating change. So many times the leaders don't really have a complete plan to do that. And these are some of the and Deepak, you will find this very useful, that are we doing as we are managing the chaos in the organization? What kind of meetings are we holding? Are we using multiple forums? Do we have a newsletter that goes on every month? Yeah. So at Crossroad, we have been very particular about certain rituals that we follow, and this is our 10th webinar, and we can see so much of benefit of constant. The newsletter goes out every month from our team. So the idea is that when you start doing all this vectors of change, you start seeing that change happening very successfully. Yeah. And the last, I think I'm coming to the last slide, which is, I think, key principles of this that we spoke about is, you must end before you begin. So if the girl is still, with the other family and not really settling in this side, new beginning will not happen. Between the ending and the beginning, there is a gap, and this gap can be very creative. So don't get upset between the ending and the beginning. It's an interesting phase. What will happen is that although you may come up with a certain way of making change, but if you make it very creative, what will happen is there are a lot of people who will actually give you some very interesting solutions, which was not thought in the earlier plan, because there is a certain assumption that you have made, that assumption is changing. So can I make that whole phase very creative? And the third point is so important, so nice. The transition is a source of renewal. So you are actually not getting upset with any transition. You're looking at that as a source of relevance, and people go through transition at different speed. So never assume that all your team members will be as excited as you are, because you have seen everything so far in our webinar today. You saw the way people manage their emotions, you saw the limbic system, you saw the rational brain, you saw the 4 types of disc. You saw that when you are as a driver, you are not as scary as the passenger. So people will go through different transitions. So you essentially will have to value their speed at which they are handling change, and not really push through the change. And I always keep telling this in my session that, so Deepak, you are at such a good point that you are setting up the whole new company, and there is a culture that you build in the organization, which means that if you can handle a couple of such changes so beautifully, next time there is a change, the people on the ground are very comfortable with the chaos. They say, यार हमने 4 बार कर दिया, अभी भी कर लें, कोई बड़ी बात नहीं. Yeah. So the way you deal with your people, the way you handle change has a very big impact on the culture. And culture manifests behavior, and behavior manifests result. So it's a very nice sequence that we want to get. So we want to look at this module as also creating powerful culture in the organization. Yeah. So this was like my last slide, and I'll take some time to get some key takeaways. Keep it open for any question, answer, and any thoughts, anything that you want to ask me. Yes, Satya.
Yeah, I just want to ask one thing. You have mentioned that one of your slides, just before concluding, 1 or 2 slides before concluding, the last one, walk the talk. Yes. And how can you connect that? Is it related to communication, or communication with empathy, or communication with something? This is what you generally actually meant by that, or that is something else you meant by that?
Yes. Anybody else would like to answer? Very good question, Satya. I think very relevant, very good question. Anybody would like to answer? Yeah, Nagarjuna.
I think here the walk the talk means when there is a change and you tell people to do certain thing and you don't display that yourself, then it's very unlikely to happen. So first thing is as leaders, we have to do that change, in our behavior, our response. If you say that no telephone will be, can be picked up after 2 rings, right? It should be just in the first ring itself, somebody should pick up, we say. And when somebody is sitting in our room, we don't care. Automatically, the message is that, okay, it's only for telling, but not for me. So that's I think, probably the walk the talk.
Very nice.
I want to add one example. Like, when we talk of, say, cost reduction, and to say you sit in the AC room, you sit in the very comfort and tell people, save electricity. And, people say it's all meaningless, what you're telling.
Very nice.
Because they may accept, because they may not resist because he's a boss. Yeah. But at the back of their mind, they say, okay, this person is, he's living a lavish style, but, he's telling us to preach the austerity,
Very nice.
Yeah. No, in fact, on that, we have seen a great leader very, very closely, Mr. Premji.
Yeah.
They walk the talk, and he never used the word that you should be conservative or whatever it is. It's all automatically, everyone got into that rhythm. Looking at him, actually, the way he behaved, I have seen him using a Ford Escort kind of car and Baleno kind of vehicle when he can probably buy an airline company and traveling in economy class.
Very nice.
So it's not a easy thing actually to do that walk the talk when you are actually having too many things to do. So
yes, very nice, brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. I think very nice, Nagarjuna. And I always give crossover as an example. So even today, it's while I have a very very operational role of leading the organization, but I'm still a facilitator, and I do it because I can't tell my facilitator to do certain way of facilitation unless I do it myself. So the whole idea is to do the walk the talk so that we don't have to I never have to tell my facilitator log in 15 minutes before the program. So I always do it myself. I have never logged in after you guys have come in. You would have seen me in last 10 sessions that before you guys come in, I am always there. So I don't have to tell this as a condition, but everybody knows that crossover and so many times people think that you're trying to be like a very very principle oriented company, and I say no, it's not about principle. It's about the benefit as an organization in front of the client, because client also recognizes that as a differentiator, because client is very relaxed that when there is a crossover session, you don't have to worry. The facilitator will be there 15 minutes before the session, or if it is in person, half an hour. When Padma has been our facilitator, and I and Padma always reach maybe 8:30 when the session is at 9:15, 9:30, and completely get everything in place. So walk the talk is all about, are you doing what you're sharing with your team? And Nagarj, you gave a very good example, and we both have had a chance to watch Premji very closely. So that's a very inspirational thing for all of us. Yeah, good, very nice. Thanks, Mohanty, for asking.
So I'll just share something that comes to mind on the walk the talk.
Yes.
From my perspective, ultimately it is winning the trust of people.
Yes.
And as we lead change, some of the sentences we get to hear is that when people say, I don't really understand this change, but I will do it because you are asking me to do it. That is the level of trust that a change leader is able to get, because different people understand the change in different ways. They have different ways. But if they have so much of trust in the leader that I don't quite understand this change and the benefits and all, but since you are asking me to do it, I will do it.
Yes.
So that level, if you are able to get, that can happen only if we walk the talk.
Yes.
Not otherwise.
Very nice. Absolutely. Very nice. So good. So I think we are at 5:10, and I usually keep 10-15 extra in case there are more questions. But I think for today I had this to cover for all of you, giving you an idea of. So there is this WhatsApp group called Leadership CHASKA, and CHASKA in Hindi means addiction. And in our thing, it's an acronym called Crossover Hosted Association for Skills and Knowledge Advancement. So that's the full form of CHASKA. So it's a WhatsApp group where Pooja Jain keeps posting, and Ridhima from our team. And you can contact Pooja or Ridhima if you like any of this thing that you saw today. And if you want to do, we have a very structured change management program. And for those who don't know about a program called Emerging Leaders Program. So it's a very interesting 6 months program that we run every quarter almost. So this is our 8th batch that we are running tonight. So tonight is the orientation of that 8th batch, and I will just quickly show it to you on your screen so that you get an idea of this 6 months. Now this program is nice because it essentially has been there for even individuals. So if you, in your individual capacity, if you want to run for yourself, you can nominate for yourself. This batch is full almost because we're starting it today. So these are the 6 month program that you all can see here, starting with emotional intelligence, contextual leadership, communication, humble inquiry, multiplier mindset, influencing skills, inside out negotiation. You can see very nicely hand-picked modules. And Priya Nair, who is also here with us, is the mentor for this batch. What that means is that for the 6 months, you have a very nice hand holding by Priya, which means you can ask her any question on anything that you're applying it in real life. So you essentially apply that. We send you an article, video. So it's a very transformative program. We have created an analysis of how the impact this program has created on on various organizations, and that is also available with us. So anytime you want to nominate maybe 2 or 3 people from your organization, or you want to yourself nominate if you're an individual facilitator, or you are or any other role that you are in, you could actually take advantage of that. Yeah. So this is an ongoing, and now we have also started something for the HR people. So it's the HR leadership suite. So it's a 3 months program only for HR. Yeah. So Nagarjuna Kavita Pradeep is joining us tomorrow. Tomorrow is the launch of that program. And it's a 3 months program we are doing for HR community, because we realize that HR does so much for the world, but there is very few that is happening for HR. So we thought we should do a leadership program for HR. How do we build leaders in HR teams? So that's very interesting. And in the month of October end, we are launching something called as a sales leadership program. So it's a 3 months program for very senior sales leaders. So you will hear about that next month. Many times I also invite some of the people, like we had Ramesh Dorairaj. So I am planning to invite Harish Bamitipati. He, in the maybe the next month or in the November webinar. He's a very good guy on culture, and we are also trying at Crossover to see how we can bring in culture consulting in our for our clients, because if we don't have proper culture, behavior will accordingly be to what the culture is, and the result accordingly. And unfortunately, I think a lot of, Premji maybe very early on understood this, and we always had the Wipro values in place. So we were very, very clear about what what we should be doing as a behavior in the organization. But a lot of organizations, 500,000 people, have no idea what the values are, how they should behave. And everybody, when they comes from different organizations, they have their own understanding about values. So I can bring that. So that's another interesting topic that we are trying to bring in. And Anne Rhodes is a very powerful lady who has really done a lot of work on culture. And as you will see in the webinar, I'll talk about those books. I'll also talk about some of the frameworks that we can use for building high performing culture in the organization. Yeah. So good. I think with this, we are coming to the end of this webinar for today. And all those who have been regularly joining, thank you so much for joining every month. Because generally, people coming again and again shows that you guys are enjoying the work that we are doing. And we also enjoy creating some very nice, interesting work, and recently I got a very interesting compliment from one of the client. They said that is Crossover a franchise in India of an American company, because they could never imagine that this kind of quality content can also be built in India. So that's a very big compliment we got, because earlier, even in Wipro, we used to look at a lot of content from the West. So we had Harvard, we had Franklin Covey, and I think we are proud to say that at Crossover, we are almost giving a run to a lot of these companies also in some of the places. So we have won a lot of projects, against them, and not against them in the sense, I think the client felt that although their content is world class, but it is still not matching to the Indian context, whereas Crossover is world class but matching to the Indian context. So we want William Bridges with the example of a bride, like the Indian ritual, for example. So this makes it very powerful for the customer to really see for themselves. So good. So thank you so much, and I'll see you again next month on a very interesting topic. Maybe we'll take a break in November and December so that people can enjoy the vacation. But I think our idea is to continue it every month and bring new topics for all of you. And in the Leadership CHASKA, do let Pooja know or Ridhima know if you want us to cover any specific topic of leadership. And since we have an interesting content team which are with us for last 7 years, we have no problem in doing any research on any topic that you are interested in, and we can jointly have this webinar next month. So thank you so much, and have a nice evening, and I'll see you next month. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, the mind-blowing example today given.
Okay, Chaturvedi sir. Thank you so much.
Really, it has ignited the mind, and you really see the steps. It is something flabbergasting.
Very nice.
Excellent example. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chaturvedi sir. Thank you so much.
Really ignited.
Meaning, coming from you means a lot for us.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, sir. Bye.
Bye-bye.